Hey, honey.
Hey,
How you doing?
fine. How are you?
Doing just fine. I was just thinking to text you. I'm like, do I need to text Hope?
I was like, I'll put it on my phone.
All
It's probably
right.
gonna go off in a minute because I put on a reminder. But yeah.
Okay. Well, you in business today.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to watch the video?
I did not.
Okay. You must not have seen the email. I need you. If y'all don't start checking y'all emails. I said so. Eventbrite
Uh-huh.
will send
Oh,
you reminder emails and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell it what to send, right? So this last time when I got everything set up, I told you to send a link to the YouTube video
Okay.
so that you guys can watch it before class. Hey, Jeanette.
I'm
Hey,
gonna go get something to drink while
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Letitia.
Hi, Anjana. How are you?
hi,
I'm doing
Anka.
good. Having a massive headache for some reason. The sinuses, you know.
Hi,
Mm.
So, yeah. So,
right there with you. Hey, Nicole.
I will drop off around 6:30 or so for a meeting with the environmental group. So,
Oh, shucks. Okay, well, we'll record it. Did you watch
thank
the
you.
rest of it from the last time?
I was there on the last time, right?
Yeah, you were there, but did you stay the whole time?
Yep.
Oh,
Only
okay.
towards the end, couple of minutes I dropped off.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hi, Nicole. Is your audio working?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm still at work, so that's the reason why I'm doing this.
now. Understandable.
I like your hair, Letitia.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. This is I'm in a hurry. Don't have time to do nothing with it. Keep it simple.
I like it though.
But I
Awesome.
tell myself it looks good on me. I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
I would put little pearls in each of the braid, like little pearls.
So Bertha just sent me a text. She's not gonna make it tonight, but she wants me to send her the recording. She'll see us next week.
Hello.
Hey, Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
Hey, I remembered this.
Are y'all getting the emails?
The what?
The
Email? I got a text, but not
I didn't. Not
I didn't
really.
check my
I don't think I
email.
don't remember getting anything.
I didn't get an email either.
I didn't check my email today. Or
Okay,
yes.
well, Jeanette and Shirley, y'all wouldn't get the email because y'all didn't register.
Oh, okay.
Well, yes, I did. I did register.
You did, and you should have gotten an email. You should have gotten.
Well, I may have. I haven't checked my email.
Okay,
today.
all right.
Okay.
I'm trying to use the email
I
system.
did receive the email.
You did. Okay, good.
Did, yes.
I'm trying to use the email system so that y'all will get the reminder. However, you have to check your email. It doesn't work if you don't check your email.
Yeah.
Bertha's not going to be here. We'll see if her friend joins us tonight.
No. Okay.
Let me call my mother. I know she's supposed to be joining, but we shall see.
Gloria. Mhm. Okay, I need to make it quick.
Yeah, we got you. And now she's not answering. She must be on the phone. I know my mom. Oops. Got somebody in the waiting room. Let's see who's in the waiting. That's her. She's joining. Yes. Let me get this right. There she is. Hey, Mom.
Hey, Gloria.
Well, hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
I was gonna call you. I was still thinking about calling you this week to see. I know you watch CNN, so did you see Sanjay Gupta's show Sunday night on seniors and marijuana?
Oh, Lord.
It
No,
was really
I
good.
didn't see it.
You have to pull it up. Pull it up. It came on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. It was Sanjay Gupta. It was really informative. It was very good.
I was so tired, I went to sleep before night.
And stayed asleep?
Huh? And stayed asleep until about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh. Wow.
We went to visit my sister and her husband's church.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I was pooped when I got home.
You at the Barnesville?
Went to a little town called Peloton.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's Monroe County.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monroe County. Yeah, I went over there and they had old-fashioned church.
Ah.
Oh, the food on the grounds and all of that.
Yeah, they had food, but we didn't get any of it.
It was all gone by the time we came.
Oh,
It was
my.
outside under the tent. Yes, it was.
And I was fine with that because I'm really funny about eating. Everybody's cooking. I know that sounds bad, but if I don't know you, I don't want to eat your food.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I see Hope over there nodding. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm gonna give a second for Jeff and what's the phrase, Nicole to join back. Nicole said she'd be right back.
Yeah, I hope
Okay.
Jeff will join. He was on leave this week. He said he was in Atlanta to take care of his niece.
Yeah, he just texted me and said he was gonna join.
Oh, good, good, good.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading what you posted over here and I was laughing. And you wrote about memory and cookies. Now tell us how to get rid of those cookies. This is
What
the
did you-
matrix.
Hey, how are you seeing that? Oh, I see it. I see it on the screen. I got you. I got you. I'm like, okay, that was supposed to be in my notes. But I put it-
Okay, all right. Okay.
we'll talk about how to get rid of the cookies. We'll talk about
One's on the computer or the ones in your mind?
the ones
That's- I tell you what, it's the same thing. It scares the heck out of me. It's the matrix, right? And
it is
No.
the Matrix. Yeah.
oh my
yeah,
God,
Yeah.
the AI creating the AI now. Oh Lord.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, how are y'all?
Just
I'm
Hi,
doing good.
Jeff.
How about you?
Good. I'm gonna move my computer. I'm fidgety. So people have reported I make them nauseous because my camera goes like that. I mean, I don't make them nauseous, but the camera does. So
the camera makes
Mhm.
me nauseous. You, of course, does not make anybody nauseous.
never.
You survived, Jeff.
I survived, and my niece is doing much better. So
Oh,
Good.
good, good.
All right. I am going to go ahead and get started. I don't know how long Nicole is going to be on her call. So we'll go ahead and get started tonight. First of all, I do want to do some little housekeeping. for those of you who may have, well, first of all, everybody go on to YouTube, like and subscribe to our Spirit Led Life Center YouTube page. You will find our classes. And I'm adding some just inspirational messages that I've done over the years. I actually looked at Zoom and I've got 3 years of inspirational messages recorded. And so I'm cleaning them up, editing them a little bit and adding them to our YouTube video. And then I'll start doing some impromptu, maybe once a week, 5-minute messages for the week. So please go on, like and subscribe our YouTube page. And also, if you miss class, that's where the videos will be. So if you miss the class, there's no need to say, oh, I'm never going to catch up. The videos are there. Okay. And honestly, the class that we did the last class we did, what was it? What was the last class we did?
Last week?
No, the previous class.
The oneness of all and the spirit.
Yeah, I don't remember what we called it, but the whole series is there. So if you'd like to go back and revisit those 7 classes, they are there, and these will be the same. So
The Spirit Led Life Center, right?
That's it.
Yeah, Spirit Led Life Center on YouTube, and
I'm
you'll see the
finding
little-
so many
There's so
Spirit
many-
Life worships. Okay.
but you'll see our little tree logo with a black background.
I say it says 10 subscribers. Awesome.
Yes, we're growing.
Why can't I find it? I know I subscribed for it, but where is it? It's not popping up on my YouTube.
I sent it to you in your Facebook Instant Messenger, Anjana.
Okay.
You
Thank
should have the link, I think. I know Tara subscribed. So just another tool and resource at your disposal. And if we get 1,000 subscribers, we start making some money off the videos, right? So I can keep. the
We
price
shall
low.
post it.
Huh?
We shall start advertising it.
Yes, please do. Please do. The goal is to have lots of good information on there for us to view and reach.
Subscribed.
Yes, thank you, Anjana. Thank you.
It's wild. I'm learning more about like YouTube and Insta that if you have a certain number of followers, all of a sudden checks start being
Yeah.
mailed to you, and then sponsors want to be, on your band. And
Yeah,
then if you have like 50,000 followers, it's like smoking. You got some
yeah,
money.
the world is your oyster. Yeah, the world is your oyster if you can get 50,000 subscribers. Right now, I will be perfectly content with 1,000. But it would be wonderful if we could get the 50,000. And we might be able to get back in the building again if we can get to 50,000. So, all right. Last week we talked about the subconscious mind, right? And we talked about all the things that we feed into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind being the mind in general, being stored all throughout the body. The chakras being points of information storage, how it impacts our body. We talked about every memory we've ever had since the beginning of time being housed in the subconscious. Our experiences, good, bad, and ugly, are all there, all stored, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that I didn't say that I want to reiterate today is that the whole entire objective of the subconscious mind is to preserve life. It will avoid any perceived threats to its sustainment of life. That's why this information is stored, because it is a record of past experiences that determine how we predict what happens next. We're always trying to predict the future, right? Humans are overwhelmingly preoccupied with what's going to happen next, right?
Right.
And so our subconscious mind, thank you, our subconscious mind is designed to help us in that prediction process. So we said even our limiting beliefs and recollections of past traumas are designed to keep us safe, to preserve life. The challenge is the subconscious mind preserves life as it is, not necessarily as it needs to be, or as it might be in the future. And this is why why change is so challenging. The subconscious mind is programmed by past experiences, especially things of a repetitive nature. That's where the muscle memory stuff comes in at, right? You repeat the action, you follow through, the subconscious mind stores it, the muscles know it, the body knows it, it's permanent. And then you interject a little thought process called change, and it throws the subconscious off completely, right? So, but again, I want to reiterate the purpose. And I put on here that it's like your internet browser. The internet browser is designed where it gets faster with your viewing of different types of sites because it collects the cookies, and the cookies help it to remember how to load the page. Your subconscious does the same thing. The challenge is what happens when the browser visits a new site and doesn't have the cookies it needs. It takes a little longer to load, right? But they've created mechanisms in the computer to allow for the cookies to download first, and then you're forever able to download their website. And that's what I mean by your subconscious being like an internet browser. When the subconscious mind doesn't have cookies or data needed to process the information, not only can it slow it down, depending on the level of comfort, it can actually go into a trauma response, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or fall. In other words, it shuts everything down. You freeze, you don't move forward, you stay stuck. In spirituality, we often talk about evolution or evolving into spirit in the spiritual growth. And truly any personal growth is a process of evolution. In order to evolve, the subconscious mind has to be fed good information, or information that assures it that the transformation process of evolution will not cause it to die. Transformation is not a life-destroying process. It is a life-affirming process. But because of how the subconscious mind works, it can feel as if we're going to die. And so we have to use some other tools. We have to do the work of healing the subconscious mind from all the limiting beliefs and different types of trauma so that we can move forward. Now, I want to be clear that healing the subconscious mind is not about making our experiences disappear or erasing it from out of our memory banks, but it's about putting those experiences in proper perspective through the process of reframing. And we'll speak more about this later on. All right, Miriam's coming on. Hopefully, Nicole will be on shortly. All right, so we're moving on to our next session, right? The subconscious mind is one part of our mind, but the conscious mind is the other part. And they both work hand in hand together, right? So in this session, we're going to talk about the role of the conscious mind, the tools of the conscious mind, the brain as the control center of the conscious mind, right? We're going to talk about triggers as a call to heal, and what happens when we experience triggers. And then I'm going to give you guys a little homework, and we could talk about it before we leave, but because I know, Jeff, darn, yes, you get homework, but we can actually talk through it up front. If you have done some introspection this week, this exercise will be easy for us to do. If you've not, in relation to the subject matter, then we need some time for you guys to process the information. So we'll see what happens when we get there. So let's move on and talk about the conscious mind. And you see that I have up here an awesome picture. I probably used this picture 100 times because I just love it so much. All the energy flowing from the brain. But I also put up here that the conscious mind is both the watchman and the gatekeeper of the subconscious. And there's an interesting scripture in the book of Ezekiel where it says, "Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth and give them warning for me." Your conscious mind is like that watchman sitting at the gate. And its job is to say when there's a threat. Its job is to say what will not pass. Its job is to alert the subconscious mind to be on the ready, right? So let's get a little deeper in this. Your conscious mind is your objective or thinking mind. What's interesting about the subconscious mind is that it has no memory, and it can only hold one thought at a time, although it might seem like it's holding multiple thoughts. In consciousness, you might have 50 million thoughts going on inside of you, but you're only conscious of a few. Like right now, you're conscious of hearing my voice and you're processing information as I'm speaking. But there may be thoughts about what you're going to have for dinner, or what you're going to cook for dinner, or how you need to clean the dishes because you already ate dinner going on in your brain, but you're not necessarily conscious of that, right? Another interesting thing about the conscious mind is that it functions very much like a binary computer, performing only two functions. It accepts or rejects information. It makes choices and decisions. It can deal with only one thought at a time, and it assesses whether it's positive or negative. It's on or off. It's yes or no. That's the binary component of this, right? Based on this assessment, the conscious mind does what I call putting things in a compartment as a way of categorizing the information that it receives. So just as I'm speaking, your information box, your brain, your conscious mind is saying, okay, information, what are we doing with this? Ooh, this is something I can use. Ooh, let me put it in a compartment for later on. Ooh, I completely reject that. I'm going to push it on out. That's not something that's useful to me. That is happening as we speak. Now, this process of on and off, yes, no, this binary process in Buddhism is referred to as dualism. Dualism is a way of seeing the world, experiences, and circumstances as either good or bad, right or wrong, left or right, real or not real, possible or not possible, godly or ungodly, holy or unholy, righteous or evil. Whatever terms you want to use in relation to that, that's dualism. And when we think of life in these terms, life becomes quite narrow for us. We say that there is only one way of being and one way of doing things. For example, years ago, when we were having the conversation about expanding the definitions of marriage, a lot of people went into their dualistic approach. They said marriage is only one thing between a man and a woman. And they protested greatly to support that, right? Because they are dualistic thinkers. They are black and white thinkers. There's only one way of being. And so their world becomes narrow. Now, we feed our subconscious with this information, and it is stored forever throughout our body unless we create information that contradicts what's already been stored, and we continue to feed the new information into it. This process of categorization, as innocent as it is the beginning of our limiting beliefs, right? Over time, our dualistic nature creates a world where sometimes our very own existence comes into question. For example, we are convinced that when you get old, life is over, you're supposed to retire and go sit down somewhere and wait on your time to be taken on to glory. A lot of people think that, right? But then there are others who would say that when they retire and no longer working, life is just beginning for them. And they're moving on to another way of being in life. Those people tend to live longer. One of the saddest things I've ever seen is the trend for a lot of people who retire to die shortly thereafter. Most of those people, when they retire, they had no vision of the future, no purpose. And so 6 months time goes by, and the next thing you know, they're gone. Or when someone has convinced themselves that they're going to spend the rest of their lives with their soulmate, and they marry their soulmate. And for some reason, their soulmate passes. How many of you know that a lot of people die shortly after their spouse dies?
Mhm.
Yeah, it happens often because they had no vision of what life will look like afterwards. Yeah. So this is where our dualistic nature, our categorizations start to threaten our existence. Now, this component of mind is critical for our survival, since it allows us to direct attention and perceive events that we need to respond to in the immediate environment. The conscious mind is the gatekeeper of the subconscious because it accepts or rejects possibility. And for many in the world, they have come to accept that things won't ever change. That the majority of people are evil. Or that life can never be any better than it is. Why do you think that's so? Just out of curiosity, anybody? Y'all quiet tonight.
What was the question, Letitia? And then I've got a question.
Okay. Why do you think people perceive the world in the way that believe that things will never change? That the world is the way that it is never going to change, and there's no sense in trying.
I don't know. That's the
Yeah.
exact. I'm the exact opposite, but
I know you are the exact opposite. That's
I think it's because they know it will be hard to change it, and they're just not up for the task.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. They know that it's hard to change it.
That's
Right? Hi, Kathy. Thanks for joining us.
What crosses my mind, Letitia?
Hey,
is what you-
sorry, daughter just got back from surgery.
Okay. Good deal.
What crosses my
We've got
mind
her
is,
upstairs. She's on drugs now.
Okay. We'll keep her in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mom.
I said, what I was thinking about is what you said a few minutes ago, about limited thinking. And as I was thinking that scripture that over in Proverbs that said that whatsoever a person thinketh, so
Mhm.
it's so we can't phantom in our mind anything other than what we've put in there, and so we can't see anything differently. And so
Right.
we don't think there is any difference. It's gonna always be this way. We tell ourselves. And so when we tell ourselves that over and over, it becomes what we live.
That is true. The mind works on recall.
Yeah.
It works on recall. What
Mhm.
it most readily accepts are the things that it has seen before, experienced before, and knows to be true. Hope, I saw your mic was open. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you feel powerless, you feel like the world is happening to you and you don't play a part in what's happening or in shifting your perspective. I think that's when you succumb to feeling like this is what it's gonna be, regardless of what I do. And I
Yeah.
think, that's it.
Okay. Great. That I love that you use the word feel, because that's going to take us into our next slide.
Can I ask real quick, Letitia? So does everyone's conscious mind do this binary assessment and put it in a box?
It does.
Does it-
However, you can train your conscious mind to add some other boxes.
Okay, like
Yeah.
intensity, like it can be good, but not that great. You can
Right.
put a subjective.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I was younger, my mom took us to counseling. We were just going through some teenage stuff, and so my mom took us to counseling, and my counselor made an assessment of me that I was a very black and white thinker, a very binary thinker, on, off, yes, no, good, bad. But through some exposure to different information, through some television shows even. I used to like to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? Who knew that you could learn something from Buffy the Vampire Slayer? But Buffy the Vampire Slayer had the character in there, Angel. Angel was a vampire who was perceived to be the worst vampire ever to live, right? But then he got a soul. And so the conundrum became, how do you judge Angel? Because Angel is bad, but now he's got a soul and he feels and he has humanity. So he's fighting for good, and that was the whole back and forth. And when I saw Angel, I began to come to the realization that life has some gray to it. It wasn't all black and white, right? Like, there's gray. So that was my first introduction to the notion of grayness, right? And then over time, I started seeing other examples of grayness, right? To the point where I got, go ahead, Kathy.
Well, it's funny that you say that. See, I've always really felt comfortable in the gray area. And I think I must have challenged my Southern Baptist Sunday school teacher all the time, because I was always in the gray area.
Yeah.
And it just felt comfortable. Well, it challenged me, but it also felt comfortable but I felt challenged because it seems like the other people in the class, they always just thought, well, it was just good or bad, or that sort of thing. It was just that kind of dichotomy. And I just felt like I was on this sea of mushy gray half the time. But I felt okay with that. But I don't think a lot of my friends felt okay with that. I think they were always trying to save me, quote. And I'm not sure I wanted to be saved at that point.
Right.
Because it goes back to what you were talking about last week when we were talking about oh gosh, what was the term you used? I put it down. Okay, so you talked about abuse, spiritual abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we talked about that a little bit, and it was like I'd never liked feeling controlled by anything in terms of a person controlling me.
Right.
And so And then the next part of that, well, they do that oftentimes, and it helps you see the other person's perspective. They do that in order to justify their own beliefs.
Yeah.
So I always felt like when I was growing up, I was the person they were trying to control, and they were trying
Yeah.
to move into the way they thought I should be thinking, which then leads you to the question, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
You know, it leads you into that question. And again, I apologize for missing the first 15 or 20 minutes.
You're fine. You're fine. And I'll tell you, you can catch up on everything that you missed. This video will be on YouTube, and you can, and I'll tell you how to join our YouTube channel later. But that's the beauty of accepting the gray. So long story short, you can interject new information into your conscious mind through the process of learning, right? That's what these classes are for. That's why you read. That's why you listen and go and be a part of discussions, to have new thoughts to come into your mind and retrain the way to create more categories within the conscious mind, so that it might be useful information to you. So you can expand that binary thinking. Does that help you, Jeff? Answer your question?
It does, and it reminds me of so many times when I was at USAID and people would pitch an idea, and I'm processing and I'm thinking. I haven't formed an opinion yet, but I have a visceral reaction, like whether I like it or hate it. And people are like, you hate my idea, and I'm like, I didn't say a word. I said, your face says it all. And I'm
Your
like,
face says it all.
how did I, I didn't even realize that people could, I have a visceral negative reaction, but I don't know why. And overnight, I can process what I didn't like about it. But in the moment, I just say good or bad, and I'll deal with it tonight when I go to sleep.
Exactly. Exactly. Some people are more reflective thinkers, and so they need time to process. And that's something we've got to be very mindful of, with that we all think a little quicker or a little slower, but it doesn't mean it's good or bad, right? You know, when you take your time to process the information before making a decision about it, you actually learn more. You put it together, you pick it apart, and you put it back together again, right? And so you understand what is being said much deeper than somebody else might. And so when you reject or accept it, you really bought into it. You really bought into it. So that's a powerful process also.
But I don't know, do you find yourself sometimes feeling like you overthink it to death? I mean, I don't know if you feel that way, but sometimes I'll feel like I'll hold back what I'm thinking because I'm still processing, and there's a point in which I have to just kind of say, okay, here's what I think in this project, here's what I think, here's the direction I think that we should go. But I feel a hesitancy to do that sometimes, because what if I'm wrong? Well, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, somebody can talk to me about that,
Yeah, you know what? Okay, so now we're moving into the business arena, which I spent a lot of time with leaders about this very thing. There are so many leaders who are hesitant to make a decision, hesitant to move forward because they are still processing and they're analyzing. And yes, long story short, I do believe there is too much over analysis. But this is a part of the need to be perfect, the need to, like we say in business, get it right the first time.
And I mean, a lot of people don't get it right the first time,
But then the question becomes, what is right?
Yes.
And yeah, is there right? Is there perfect?
Yeah.
Is there more, and I just had this conversation this week with my supervisor. We have this process in my office where everybody has a say in anything, right? And some people are quicker to make a decision. We're very collaborative. And I like collaborative environments to a point, to the point where one or two people get stuck in indecision. that's where I'm like, collaboration's over. Let's move forward. We've already talked about it ad nauseum. Time to make a decision, right? That's me.
Well,
Yeah.
I know.
And so,
No,
yeah, one of the things that I found is it is that fear of making a mistake. But what I always remind people of is that you may not get it perfect the first time, but stay open to evolving the process. So it's just like every business in the world has made a faux pas, Microsoft. The reason we have Microsoft 11 and not Windows 11 and not Windows 93 is because they found things that could have been done better. And so
Yeah.
they take the same program and continuously evolve it and evolve it and evolve it. And it actually becomes a business model. So we continuously upgrade and buy into Windows, whatever point version it is. Same thing with the iPhones. Now, mistakes have become a multi-million-dollar business because, oops, that version wasn't our bestest version. So now we're going to give you another. And this one was better than that one. It might be one small change that they made to it, but now you're spending thousands of dollars to get the next iteration of. So it's all
I wonder. Yeah.
What you thinking, Kathy? I see the wheels turning.
I just know. I wonder though, do you think our society is, because innovation, you hear that word a lot, innovation, innovate. And I think we need to innovate.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to innovating, but I know that I guess in the educational system I experienced, there were very few teachers that really wanted me to innovate.
Yeah.
Most of them wanted me to regurgitate, mostly if they thought. And my
Yeah.
husband and I were talking recently, and he's really strong in math. I am not, but he's very strong in math. And he came up with a different way of solving a math problem when he was in school. And the teacher reprimanded him because it was not the right way to solve that math problem. And he was determined to prove her that it could be. And I don't think she liked it. I mean, he came back and in a respectful way. But again, I think it may be the kind of educational environment that you're in sometimes. And sometimes we're lucky enough to be in an educational environment that does encourage that dialogue.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
We're
not born like this, right? We're not born
right.
like this. It is our experiences, our teachings, our environment that feed into us moving into that dualistic way of thinking. There's a lot of that. There's one way of doing stuff, that we have to overcome when we're trying to be innovative and creative. And that one way of doing stuff or one way of being, or this is wrong or this is right, has been to our detriment in many ways. The people who are challengers to the system are the ones who always have the breakthroughs. Yeah. So I would
always have what? I missed that.
Who
have what?
In innovation.
Breakthroughs.
Yeah.
The innovation.
Yeah. They're always challenging the thinking. And so that becomes what is trying to be nurtured now is that very thing. We're looking at it again and we're saying, maybe we made a mistake. Let's not force this down the children's throat. Let's encourage the children to think more. One of the things that I spend a lot of time on working with employees and leaders is critical thinking. They've been so used to being told, regurgitating, right? They've been so used to regurgitating information that critical thinking has fallen to the wayside. So now we've got them all the way through college and we're ready to put them in the workforce. And when nobody is telling them what to do, if they encounter a problem that isn't written in the SOP, they're at a loss. So now we're saying, I used to offer critical thinking training every year. Every year, it was always a part of our business plan to our training budget to purchase critical thinking class.
Yeah.
Because they had gotten used to the binary teaching, the one way of doing things. Yeah.
And sadly, it seems like in our own educational system, at least in K-12, we're kind of moving away from some of that in some
Yeah.
respect, which is
Yeah.
a loss, a big loss.
It is a big loss. It is a big loss.
Okay,
Go
I'll be
ahead,
quiet.
Go ahead, Anja.
Yeah, I'm going to bring a perspective from the Hindu religion into this, because this
Okay.
binary thinking, and you started off with the Buddhist thing saying Dvaita, which is two, right? The binary.
Yeah.
So there is, as you evolve, according to the 9 steps of Patanjali, it's like going from kindergarten to a PhD degree, let's say that, so as you evolve, you do different things, right? So initially you start with Dvaita, which is dualism, where you see everything binary and good, bad. Then as you evolve, you go into Advaita, which is oneness. And in that oneness, even when you read the chants, it says it is this and it is that.
Yes.
It is this and it is that and it is not that. So that means the whole binary thing is thrown out of whack, and you realize there is no right or wrong.
Angela, you always want to rush to the answer.
That's me. I have to get an A, you know that.
We are headed in that direction, I promise.
That's right.
I do the same thing, Letitia. I just have to have faith in the journey. You're going to take it.
Yes, trust the journey.
I do, but I'm going to be silent. I'm just like sitting
But
here on
yes.
pins and needles. Just tell me how to get rid of these cookies. Just let me get rid of these cookies so I can move to another cookie,
Exactly. But yes, that's the end game, to move into that unity consciousness where you stop judging everything and just see it as an experience and a learning opportunity, right? This is a part of life, and every life has a right to be. I can't act like it's not because I made the determination that it's wrong, but it is. It is.
Of time. It's such a waste of time. Why do we have to go through all this? I mean, why can't universe create it? And this is just me venting. Why do we have to go from a binary? I mean, why were we created as binary? I mean, why?
This is the thing. That's a great question. We were not created binary. But this leads me directly to this slide, these 4 functions of the conscious mind. Because look at what those functions are: sensing, intuiting, thinking, feeling. All of that is about our perception. And you see at the bottom, I put that the conscious mind interprets, sorts, and assigns meaning to everything that happens through these 4 senses, right? For these 4 functions. So imagine, okay, non-binary, no dualism, right? You're born into the world, there is no dualism. But you take your first few steps and you decide to touch the hot stove. It burns, you cry, you feel the pain. Your brain says, the thinking process, holy crap, that hurt, don't like that, bad.
Yeah.
And your parent comes behind you and says, bad baby, don't do that again. Dualism has entered your world. Okay, so this is the function of the mind. Now, okay, so you might think, oh, that's a negative thing that it created dualism, but the reality is it's a necessary thing to your survival and the preservation of your life.
So
Right?
it is a requirement.
It is a requirement for your own preservation.
And
But
is it-
notice,
Okay, Jeff first, and then
Just
whoever.
real quick, what I hate is, I call it the false binary choice. Like some choices are binary. Do you want to get pregnant and have a child or not? Do you want
Right.
to pick up the job? Do you want to break up with your significant other or marry them? There are many things that are truly binary, but most is not. Most of the time we convince ourselves that decision making between deductive reasoning will reduce your options to make it easier until you have two things you're debating that you don't like either one. That's what I'm in a false binary for me.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like either choice.
Don't like either one.
And that's a good point, Jeff. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And so what do you do when you have to make a decision about something and you don't like any of the choices?
You create a third way, a different way.
You could, or you
Go
pick
with
one
that.
and trust your ability to overcome, to move through
One,
everything.
one thing that we did, we almost automatically internalized that we are a bad child or we are a bad person.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Another choice, we made a poor choice or it was a bad thing that happened,
Right.
which is as opposed to internalizing we're bad because we did that. But then we may, whether a parent's trying to stop us, a sibling or whatever, they may say bad Kathy or bad whatever.
Yeah.
And so we internalize that as we're a bad human being or we're a bad person.
Yeah, very
That's a very critical point you said. I mean, I think when, maybe we should start disciplining kids saying their action was bad.
yeah. Well, and
Action,
this is the thing. I would say throw the judgment of it being bad out completely.
Yeah.
Say it hurt. It's something you should
What have
not
you
do again. What did you learn from this?
What have
Same
you
thing
learned?
the first question about the two choices.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and Anjana brought in the non-dualism perspective in unity consciousness, everything being one, there is no wrong choice. It is just a path. And if you make this choice, you follow the path. And the path can turn out good, it can turn out bad, or it can make you uncomfortable, it could challenge you. Let me take that word bad back and say, it could challenge you, make you uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you will grow. And because of that growth from the experience, then you are better. It is,
Yeah.
and therefore, and this is why I say judgment can only be made in hindsight. You can only judge anything looking back. Because there were things in my life that happened to me that I might say, oh my God, that was the worst thing ever. But now I'm 5 years down the road and I say, if that had not happened, I would not have learned X. And because I learned X, it opened up the door for Y.
So do you think we were meant to go? I mean, okay, so let me ask you this question. Since it seems like no matter what the experience is, it always leads to growth,
Yes.
isn't it? I mean, that's the deduction that
Yeah.
that any experience, whether it was painful or whether it was joyful, it leads. I don't know if the joyful one leads to growth,
Yeah,
but
joy leads to growth. Joy leads to growth. Yeah.
so yeah, I need more of those joyful ones. But but looks like both of them lead to growth then.
Both of them lead to growth. And therefore, we can say, it's all good. I know. It's all good. It may have been uncomfortable. It may not have felt good. It may have challenged me. It may have made me think differently. But I grew.
I used to call those lessons of life.
Right.
That's how I saw it, going through a lot of the things that I went through. And now that I've reached the age that I am, I look back over sometime and realize that those things that I thought were hard or tough, or the things that I didn't want to go through or I felt bad about, I look at those things now and I realize that first of all, I don't just see black and white no more.
Exactly.
I don't just see black and white or gray. I see levels of colors
Yeah,
that at one point I might not would have seen.
yeah,
And that come from going through some of the things that I went through that somehow adjusted my thinking. And that's the best way I can put it. It adjusted my thinking to get past some of the things that we were talking about earlier, the hurt and the feelings and the anxiety and the different things. Because now I can look back and I can take those things that I went through then, and something can happen today. And I realized, okay, this too will pass. I didn't think like that when I was younger.
exactly. Yeah, it was the worst thing
You
in the world.
know,
The world is
Huh?
falling apart. The world is falling apart. When you
yeah, I don't think
that's
like that
not-
anymore.
you eventually get out of that and recognize that this is just a part of life. Let me move on. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah,
I just wanted to ask Mama a question. Given what she just said, I've debated this in my head. Do you have any regrets?
oh, yes,
See,
yes.
I mean, regrets as in you wished you had a do-over button and would not do what you did, because then you wouldn't learn the lesson. from
Exactly.
the
I don't think if I had a do-over button, I would push it so I wouldn't go through some of the things that I went through, because at this age, I realized I went through those things for a reason.
Yes.
Now, if you had asked me that 20 years ago, if I had a do-over button, would I have pushed it? You would get a different answer.
Right, right.
But now that I look back on it, I realize that some of those things that happened in my life was for my own good.
Let me ask you this in relation to regrets. Are the regrets about mistakes or regrets about things like not standing up, not being adventurous, not being open to a new possibility?
I think it was a lot about me not being adventurous.
Yeah,
Because when I look at today, I think about, if you had only had the stamina, if you had only had the mind to do this, or if you only had the time at the time, you would have done X, Y, and Z.
yeah,
And so I think sometimes it's just, I wasn't adventurous enough.
yeah.
That the things that I went through made me any worse or better at the time, but now that I look at it,
Right.
I like I said, I call it life lessons.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people that I talk to, and I talk to people on a regular basis about what they're going through. And I tell them it's just life.
It's just like, the reason I asked that question is I will tell you, I have no regrets in life, but I've always followed my own voice, which is
Yes.
people off in the process. My mom
Yes,
was
she,
here.
and I got to say, yes, she did. She got more things because she was trying to follow her own mind.
Exactly. I literally would do things knowing that the end result was going to be a whooping. And I remember distinctly in high school saying to myself, I'm going to enjoy this because I'm going to
I'm
get
gonna get a
a
beat in.
afterwards. So I did it my way, in the words of Frank Sinatra. And so I stayed true to myself, even in the midst of the consequences, which made me a hard child to raise. I recognize as I'm raising my granddaughter, who's just like me in that vein.
Yeah.
It meant I had no regrets because every choice was my own.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hope.
I was just gonna ask, what if a person doesn't grow from the experience? They're stuck. What happens when you're just stuck? 6
Yeah.
years in, you're stuck. What
Yeah.
do you do?
That you have to challenge yourself then. This is where things like unforgiveness, this is things where trauma, the mindset, the victim mentality comes in. You become a victim.
Mhm.
And you can't move into the victor. And I gotta say this from spiritual perspective, I don't care what spiritual teaching you read, In the Bible, it says, in all things, we're more than conquerors. You are a victor, right? In metaphysics, it says that the victor is one level of achievement. It is in the level of achievement in your spiritual growth and development. And there are levels even above that, right? To not only move from victim to victor, but to move from victor to master, to move from master to world changer, right? And that's not how they use the terms, but that's basically what it is. You are now an influencer. You are now able to change reality because you have elevated through these steps. Every single spiritual master, from Buddha to Jesus to Muhammad, were masters of the elements. Why was it important to master them? And even He-Man, remember the cartoon He-Man? What was his phrase? Master of the universe. Mastery is about being in control of you. All that is you, that is mastery. Jesus was in control of him and empowered enough to pull people out of their suffering. Buddha, same thing. Buddha could walk on water. People don't realize that there are stories of Buddha walking on water, just like there were stories of Jesus walking on water and stories of Moses parting the Red Sea. This was when nothing could stop you from being who God created you to be. That is the ultimate.
And being stuck not gonna stop you from being what God created you to be either. You think you stuck. And sometimes you're right where you need to be.
True. But I will say that when you come into that place of stuckness, what's going to happen, and I've said this to another person on this phone call, she doesn't like when I say this to her, but what's going to happen is that life is going to start bringing you challenges to address the stuckness. And the longer you refuse to address the thing that's keeping you stuck, the more challenges you're going to experience in your life. That's that law of attraction thing, right? Law of attraction works whether you're conscious of it working or not, right? And what is being attracted to you are the very things that are inside of your subconscious. It is not necessarily the things that you're conscious of as being attractive or sending out the radio frequencies to draw things to you. It is the thing in your subconscious that need to be corrected, adjusted, reordered, deleted, whatever. And so life is going to keep challenging you until you change, period. Anjana, what were you going to say?
I was trying to send you emojis to say, Lord, yes, Lord, I've been slapped silly because of that. And
yeah. And when you overcome it, you never see it again. You might see something else because it's still something that needs to be worked out. But when you overcome that spot, you never see it again. Yeah.
Tisha, I used to relate that to when I was going through all of my trouble, and looked like by the time I thought it was over, something else would come up. And I used to relate it to the children of Israel going around in the wilderness for 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly how I would see it. It would look like about the time I thought I had gotten through one situation, there was another. And I still say the Creator was working stuff out of me.
That's it. Yeah.
And I had to get to the point that I was not willing any longer to be a victim. I was not willing any longer to just see myself stuck in a situation that I thought that I didn't have the power to fix, because I did.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't fix the situations that we in because we really don't want to.
And there you go. We like the high that we get. And this brings me to the discussion of feelings, right? These senses. I got to get us back on track. These 4 functions of consciousness If we don't control them, because we have control over these things, right? If we don't control them, then they begin to control us. And I put in my notes that things that feel good, the brain often determines is right. If it feels good to me to be angry, see, anger is beautiful. When you got that, what I used to call righteous indignation,
Indignation.
which was just foolishness, me feeling like my ego gets energized, and it makes me feel good to just go off on somebody and give them a piece of my mind and tell them where they can get off at, because I had righteous indignation. It felt good. And that's why it took me so long to let it go. It's the same thing with any addiction that we have. You know, I had the experience of having to deal with somebody who's addicted to drugs. And one of the things she said to me was, I don't get off of drugs because I don't want to. I like it. It makes me feel good. And that feeling component of our being can often be detrimental to us.
The feeling can be addictive, is what you're saying?
Feelings can be addictive.
Yeah.
Feelings of self-pity, being the victim. We always say, oh, they love playing victim. Yes, because being the victim draws attention to me, and everybody wants to hug me and pet me up and say, oh, so sorry, so sad. You're such
Yeah,
a
that's the payoff.
individual.
That's the payoff.
That's the payoff.
It's the big payoff. You've hit the lottery.
You hit the lottery. You got everybody's attention, you know?
And it make us feel like we're a good model.
It makes us feel like we
Make
are.
you feel like we're a model. Yes, it does.
Yeah. Now, this brings me to my next slide. What happens, because these are mechanisms of interpretation, right? These are mechanisms of interpretation. The conscious mind's whole entire job is to interpret information, put it in a category, determine whether it gets stored in the subconscious or completely rejected or not, right? Interpretation. The things that we're talking about or have talked about are the things that happen when our intuition is flawed. Did you know that your intuition could be flawed?
Mhm.
This is news to me, because I thought people who are intuitive automatically know the right thing to do. So this is something totally new for me.
Yes, your intuition is powerful. Do not get it twisted. When your intuition is not clouded by fears and trauma and negative experiences, then it works flawlessly. But how many times has your intuition led you to believe something and then create the very thing that you believed? Self-fulfilling prophecies. Have anybody ever heard of those?
Yeah.
We think that it's going to be bad. We think that it's going to turn out wrong because our intuition is fed by our negative past experiences, and it is thrown off balance.
And then like a drug, when it does fall apart, you're right. So you get that extra heroin by like, I told you this would fail.
I knew I was right.
But what about is
right.
it hypervigilance? Is it a form of, how do you determine between hypervigilance and intuition then?
How do you feel? I often say to people,
You're sorry, you have to turn that off.
okay, when you sit
Go
down,
ahead.
whenever you have to make a decision, right? Sit down and meditate. And when you are meditating, and just don't meditate, randomly, meditate on the decision. Think of one choice. and then sense in your body what it feels like.
Hmm.
And for some reason, when I started having, this came to me in a vision. And when it first came to me, all I saw was a pyramid. There are certain decisions, the pyramid is stronger on the base than it is on the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Its foundation is solid, and that's why it's lasted for years, right? Decisions that are right for you feel like a pyramid. And if I could explain it better, I wish I could explain it better, but this is just my inner knowing, right? It may feel like a tree, it may feel like something entirely different to you. But long story
Like a
short,
stable thing, something like a stable.
that's it. That's what exactly what I was gonna say. Long story short, it feels solid to you. Your body isn't in that butterfly upheaval that you feel when a decision may not be right for you. When the decision is pushing you past your comfort zone. Now, there are times where you have to get pushed past the comfort zone, and that decision will still feel solid. It's like, okay, this is a solid decision, but it scares the crap out of me. You do it anyhow. I feel the solidness. My thinking ability agrees with the solidness. My sensing ability agrees with the solidness of this decision, but now I still have my trauma response of fear that makes me want to run,
Yeah.
hide, take cover, but I feel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that helps.
Yes, it does, but I'm still trying to think of how, and maybe I'm going too much into the weeds and I have to experience it, but
Yeah.
the solid feeling, because I know I'm one of those who had to work a lot to get outside my comfort zone. So that solid feeling is what I have to work on to see, in spite
Yeah.
of my fears, how does it feel?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is very not scientific. Let me just say that it's not scientific at all. But feel your gut. Those of us who function off of gut instinct a lot, we
Yes.
know it, we feel it. It's solid. The gut is stable. There's no upheaval. There's nothing. It just feels solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's not right, the gut feels willy wonkers. You almost might feel nauseous.
I have experienced that.
Now, the other way I can say this is, what calmness feels like. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had an experience of being calm?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you make a decision, when you're trying to make a decision, look for that feeling, that calm.
Yeah, that makes more sense, because what I do is I try to see if the decision makes me feel peaceful.
That's it. That's it. Now, and the peace is always in your solar plexus chakra. I'm gonna, yeah, because it may not be in the head. The head may still be chaotic, but the solar plexus area, it's gonna be stable. And you've got to be able, and I call this scanning your body. You scan your body. Where is the pain? Where is the discomfort, right? And this is it takes some practice to get to this point. I'm going to tell you, it takes some practice to get to the point where you can sense and feel where the pain is taking place in your body, right? Where the disruption is taking place in your body. Only because some of us are so used to moving through the world in disruption, we don't know where it's at anymore, right? Our whole life is disruption. So it takes some conscious awareness to sense and feel the disruption in your body.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling disruption in your gut, be cautious. If you're feeling disruption up here, keep in mind what happens up here. Your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is here. It's in the brain, right?
Mhm.
It's the lower level part of the brain is your reactionary mind. If you're there, that's not the decision, or it's not. And if you can't get out of that, it's not time to make a decision either. Don't make any decision until you can feel the difference between what's going on in your solar plexus chakra and what's going on in that reactionary mind. Do not make a decision. Be still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I
I
hope that
was, I was just going to ask real quick, Letitia, about calm, true calm, and satiating your ego. When you look at some people that embrace, maybe it's confirmation bias, people who are not really investigating and assessing what's right, they're seeking to validate their prejudice or preconceived
yeah.
way of thinking, and they reject all facts and evidence that doesn't confirm that, and only receive, and it feels good in the moment. I'm right. I was right all along. That's
Mhm.
different than calm, isn't it?
That is totally different from calm. That is not calm. You feel it. Calm is not even a feeling of exuberance. That's not calm. Calm is almost like the lack of feeling. Think of when the waters are calm. They're not moving. Okay. And in spirituality, we often use water as an example of emotions and feelings. When the waters are calm, when the waters are not moving, that's calm. But even exuberance isn't calm. Yeah. Certainty is calm. Yeah. Anybody else? This is great. You guys have taken me on paths I would have never dreamed we would got to tonight, but it's great. I love it. It's good stuff and it's working for what we're talking about. Yeah.
But
So
you're talking about your own certainty, correct? Your own truth.
own certainty. Yes.
Your own certainty and your own truth.
Yes.
Yeah,
That is
Yeah.
all you can ever deal with. Right?
that's right.
That's all you can ever
That's
deal
right.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when I've had discussions with people who might be trying to impose their faith or their faith experience on me, it's fine having a discussion. But
Yeah.
when you're trying to wield me into another person,
Yeah.
you know, they are speaking their truth as they know it. But I keep getting back to what you said the first week about, the justification of what they're feeling inside is their need to impose it on you. And what
Right.
is their truth may not be your truth.
I would challenge that thought
Yeah.
process and say that the person who because I've done it, when I get into a erratic feeling and I'm pushing my point to somebody else, there is something else driving that other than certainty. Fear is
Yeah.
driving it.
I guess the instance that had happened to me was this person came back to me and said, "You're not a Christian." Well, I think there are a lot of ways to reach truth.
Yes.
And I told this person, I feel that I am a Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to but I also feel like Christianity is not the only way to find truth, spiritual truth. So, and that's what I was kind of in real life interactions with this people that may want to. Most of the people I deal with are kind of open and they want to talk and they want to hear in different experiences, but you'll meet a few that it's their way or the highway.
Yeah. And I want to give you some freedom with this. I've had these conversations with other people. I've had these conversations with myself. And you want to know one of the most empowering things I ever said to myself? I'm not.
I'm what?
I'm not a Christian.
It broke up.
I'm no longer.
I'm not a Christian. Yeah.
And if somebody, to the point now where I embrace all religions, Christianity is very much a part of who I am.
Right.
But so is Buddhism.
Yeah.
I've benefited greatly from learning about Buddhism. So is Kabbalah. I've benefited greatly from, I've taken all of it and meshed it into,
So you're eclectic.
yeah, it's me, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
and I do it both ways. If somebody asks me, are you a
Mhm.
Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. And if they're willing to accept me
Mhm.
as the Christian that I am, then cool. If they say, but you're
Yeah.
not a Christian. No, I'm not a Christian.
Yeah.
Now, am I a sociopath? And don't answer that, Letitia. But my initial reaction when she was telling me that was, who died and made you the deity, judge,
Yeah,
jury,
exactly.
who decides who's Christian? Like, when did you bestow these powers upon yourself? That's my
Right.
initial feedback to anybody who comes aggressive at me like that. I'm like,
Exactly.
who are you?
Well,
What-
I've learned to leave people as I find them, because I've had some really, really painful experiences where I hurt people more than I help them, which is never my motivator. And so if it is more beneficial for you to believe that I'm not a Christian, then okay, you're right. If it-
I agree.
But it's not, is it
knew-
not all
I
the
knew
same
that this
teaching?
particular
Was that, Kathy?
No, I was just saying, I knew the history this person had. And we were talking about trauma last week.
Mhm.
I know there has been multiple layers of trauma in this woman's life.
Yeah.
And it's probably the one thing that she has to hold on to.
That's it.
And I'm just talking about multiple things.
Yeah,
And I just could not, I couldn't go there,
yeah.
And see, the thing, y'all, is that how are you defining being a Christian?
Exactly.
Because see, a lot of us
Mhm.
especially those who come from the church or who are in the church, think that when they say you're not a Christian, that you're not following their definition of what Jesus supposed to have been.
Right.
Their definition, you're
And
absolutely
see,
right.
And see, to be a Christian don't have nothing to do with Jesus or their definition of it. To be a Christian means that I am Christ-like. And if I'm Christ-like, I got a whole different way of being than the way you're presenting yourself.
Right.
Because see, you're in judgment of me, and that's not being like Christ.
Right.
Right.
And so we have to stop people in their tracks when they talk about you're not a Christian. Ask them, what is your definition
Right.
of being a Christian?
Yeah. Well, and so, okay, so back to the fickle feelings, right? Their pronunciation of you not being a Christian feeds either into and they're insistent on trying to convert you, feeds number one into their fear, because they might love you and fear that because you're not a good Christian, you're going to hell, because that's what they've been taught and they bought into. Or they may get an ego boost from saying that they are better than you. They're in a better position than you are, right? Or any other number of feelings that they might be experiencing because they're making you feel less than they are.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. And that's why I thought last week when you talked about that, what that kind of abuse, spiritual abuse could look like, that really struck home with me, having just dealt with this.
Yeah.
And he has a completely different idea of what a marriage is or what a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
It's so far removed from mine.
Exactly.
So
the thing I want to caution everybody with is that love, from my spiritual perspective, and most spiritual perspectives, love is the driver. The whole concept of moving from dualism to non-dualism, from binary consciousness to unity consciousness, is to embrace it all with love. So even when you run into that, what I call uber Christians, love them too. You know,
Yeah.
accept that they exist and there is nothing wrong with their existence. That's you. That's
Nothing.
not dualism. It's not. That's not dualism.
Well, and nothing wrong with resistance either, you know.
Exactly. If you accept yourself at 100%, you empower you to accept them at 100%. That is love thy neighbor as thyself, right?
Yeah.
If you have a right to exist and a right to be, so too do they.
Yeah.
And so I won't try to change who you are, but I also won't allow you to change who I am.
Hello.
Correct.
Yeah, I have a friend. She's an evangelist, and back in May she went to Uganda,
Uh-huh.
and she said she was going over there to save those people, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, the travel was so insecure. I mean, like out of level 4, they were at level 3, and so the government was telling her not to go over there, but she went on anyway. And they had armed guards wherever they went, and she's supposed to have come home before Mother's Day. It ended up, she didn't get home until June. And you know, she was just saying, "Oh, Jeanette, you got to go with me next year because we just got to go over there and save those people." I'm thinking those people have been there for thousands of years. They are okay. And she's like, "Oh, you can just feel the voodoo and the evil spirits." And
Yeah.
I said, "Oh my God!" But you know, she's that. I accept her the way she is. You know, I don't talk to her about religion a lot. You know, I've always been, because I met her after I moved back to Macon back in the, well, I guess in the early 2000s. So even back then I was into metaphysics, but I just accept people the way they are, you know.
Yeah.
But I know she would not. She probably wouldn't even speak to me if she knew I was into meditation and yoga and all that kind of stuff. You know, she just sees things her way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're running out of time, so I got to get us back on track, right? Great conversation, but we got a lot of way to go. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring this slide, what happens when your interpreting goes wrong, is to bring us into conscious awareness that we may not have all the answers, real simply put, right? That our intuition can fail us when we're operating from trauma, that our feelings are always fickle. I don't care what day of the week it is, how great you feel, our feelings are always fickle and fleeting. And our thoughts are oftentimes limited. We have all kinds of biases. We have unconscious bias, subconscious bias, preconscious bias. They got a whole tons of names for all the ways that we judge, because that's what bias is, right? And that we separate ourselves. But when they fail often, those things fail often. And I want to give you a story of the moment that I realized just how fickle all of that is. I have always been a very intuitive person. I trusted my feelings. I sensed things, and it served me well, right? But then I took a job in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay. And I moved from Byron, Georgia, which is 509 feet above sea level. That's Byron, Georgia. I looked it up. It's 509 feet above sea level. Albuquerque was 5,314 feet above sea level. People, when they move to the high desert, as Albuquerque is deemed, go through elevation sickness. I went through elevation sickness for 6 months. And during those 6 months of elevation sickness, all my senses were thrown off. Intuition, flawed. Feelings, flawed. Senses, shot. Okay? It took me a long time to pick a house because I always picked my houses based on how I felt when I walked in them. It felt like home. Nothing felt right. So then I had to go into a whole nother level of being. That level of being was trusting in the divine energy, right? I had to push all of that down and say, okay, universe, I trust that wherever I am safe. And I picked the place. And guess what? I was safe. All those other things just fell apart.
Yeah.
That trust that whatever came into my life, whatever experience was going to be for my good, came into play. And I had a great experience in Albuquerque. Actually, it was sad to leave because I had great friends in Albuquerque, but that judging, sensing thing had to leave me because even the people out there look different. You know, I was over here in conservative South, and if you had tattoos I remember being in class and my business teacher telling us that if you had all them tattoos on your arm and this, that, and the other, that it would prevent you from getting a job. It wasn't professional, right? Okay, Anjana. And yet I went to Albuquerque and there were business people with tattoos everywhere, you know, everywhere. And they didn't roll their sleeves down and they didn't mask their tattoos. That was just who they were as people. And so I had to let go of that judgment and start to allow people to show me who they were. So we got to let go of these things sometimes. The reason I say when I say we need to let go of these things is when we have triggers, when we have issues, when we have things embedded in our subconscious that we refuse to deal with, won't deal with, aren't conscious of, right? So I put on this, that triggers are a gift from God. And I listed a few triggers, right? Anything can trigger an emotional response, right? It could be an anniversary and you got divorced, right? It could be your wedding anniversary and you recently divorced. Now you bawling bumble of tears because you've been triggered because your song came on, song from your wedding dance came on, all right? Something on TV can trigger you. Relationship issues or family conflict can trigger you. Meeting new people, being in a new environment can trigger you. Now, triggers are emotional responses to events that have no meaning, really, that are not trying to do anything to you. They're just what they are. They remind you of significant events in your past and cause you to have problems. The reason I took the subconscious mind first and then brought into this discussion, a discussion of the conscious mind, is because when it comes to triggers, they work hand in hand and they work so fast. It's like lightning speed that this process takes place, right? So what causes a trigger? This is the process. You encounter a stimuli, new person, anniversary, new relationship, not a relationship ending, but a new relationship happening, right? In this example I use, I'm walking down the street in my neighborhood and I see a big dog loose in the neighborhood. How many folks does that happen to?
Oh, yeah.
My
Yeah,
neighbors
me.
suck it. My neighbors suck at keeping their dogs on a leash or in their fence. There's always a dog running around with a collar on and somebody calling for Scruffy, trying to find Scruffy, right? The conscious mind sees it and begins its process of categorization. It starts thinking, that's a big dog. I wonder, what is it going to do, right? And immediately the subconscious mind steps in to aid in the sorting process. The conscious mind asks the subconscious, have we seen this before? Have we heard about this before? If the answer is yes, you get all the information. My subconscious would say, yes, so-and-so was walking down the street and saw a dog, and then the dog chased her, eventually caught her and bit her on the arm. This is a true story, right? The conscious mind says, holy crap, this is a bad situation. Avoid the dog at all costs. It starts to have feelings that it's in jeopardy. You start to sweat, you can't relax, you're jittery, you're uncomfortable, and you want to run. You're sensing danger, and that danger triggers your response system. Your response system is fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fall. And this is where your survival instincts come in. You might run. You might turn and go the opposite way. But either way, if you have a traumatic experience around a dog, you end your joyful walk and turn it into something else, right? That's an example of a trigger. When the trigger is meeting a new person and you've had the experience of being robbed at gunpoint, right? By somebody who you encountered on the street. Every single time you meet a new person, your brain is doing this. Now, we just talked about intuition, feelings, senses. How do your feelings, senses help you in this moment? They don't. Because your thinking has put the experience of meeting new people in a particular category. And that category is relation to a trauma that you have experienced. A very valid trauma, right? Very valid. But now it's causing you to put up your guard every time that you meet a new person. That new person might be very important to the next phase of your life. But because you put up a guard, and by the way, people can feel standoffishness. How many of you can feel standoffishness? Yeah, you know, yeah.
Yeah, just like the dog could feel the fear.
Yes, the dog can say, guess what? Every single time you start acting like that, the dog is gonna come up to you.
You don't have to run.
All right.
Yeah. So I've learned it because I have that little bit of fear of the dogs. Every time I see in the park, when I see a dog comes up to me, I stand in my power. I say, hey, little doggy, how you doing? And it's worked every single time. Now, I can't promise you that it's going to work every single time, but so far, so good. It has served me. I'm not going to let the dog allow me to be fearful because they can sense the fear, just like new people can sense your standoffishness. And that person might have information or be wanting to invite you into, you know, you're lonely. You want to meet new people, but you got all these triggers. You can't make no friends, right? Because you got these triggers. You're networking. You're trying to get folks to buy into your business. You can't get any business because you're standoffish to everybody that you meet. Because you got trauma that you judged as the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life, and you cannot move past it, you're stuck. So we got to become conscious of the things that happened to us, right? Some of these things happened so long ago that we have forgotten their existence, but because they're embedded in our subconscious, we still react in the same way. We're still triggered by the same thing. I say that triggers are a gift from God for a reason. It is a prompt to heal. It is a prompt to ask the question, why am I triggered in this moment? What is in my past experience that causes me to be so uncomfortable in this experience? I'll give you another example. Many years ago, I came across an article called The Ghost of Marriage Past. This woman was telling the story about how she had been married before. The husband was mentally and physically abusive and very controlling of the finances. She left him, found a new man, and the new man was great. Things were going well. They got married, and they had to have a conversation about money. The minute they had engaged in the conversation about money, she went into past marriage, and she responded to him negatively. What should have been an easy conversation turned into a battle. That battle was not triggered by their conversation nor their situation, but the past. Had she not come into awareness of that very thing, she would have destroyed her new marriage. Anybody have that experience before?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, you know, triggers can be positive too. You can
Triggers
have,
can be positive.
you can have positive triggers.
Mhm.
Okay, give me an example of one.
A picture, a smell, maybe that might remind you of something that your mother made. Memories of families and friends and good times and parties and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, those are good triggers.
A
Dogs.
favorite song.
I mean, with dogs. Big dogs. I like big dogs.
Yeah, okay, valid point. I won't say, when it comes to healing though, keep in mind that this class is about healing the subconscious. Most of the triggers, and most of the time in psychology, when they're referring to triggers, they're not really talking about the good triggers because there's no need to get rid of those. But when it comes to healing, the triggers that cause you to move into negativity are the ones that are most important. And those are the ones that must be dealt with. They gotta be dealt with because they limit you.
Yeah, a friend of mine lost her mother recently, and she was like a second mother to me as well. And we associated her with baking biscuits. I mean, she was like the biscuit queen of,
Yeah.
you know, just the universe, we thought, and she was. But, you know, as we thought about things, as we were remembering her, my friend, you know, we thought about the pleasant smell of smelling the biscuit, but then that immediately became almost an instantaneous association with her losing her mother and the
There
grief she
you
was
go.
going through.
There you go.
It can just happen so quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like, oh, grandma make biscuits. Love
Yeah,
my memory. And oh my God, grandma's not here anymore.
I'm not here anymore.
I'm
Yeah.
so alone. And you're going through a depression. I am
Yeah.
that person. You'll notice certain things I don't do on Facebook, right? I'm that person who will go out of their way to be mindful that Christmas is a very hard time for people. And so I'm not posting a whole bunch of Christmas memories or Christmas pictures or this and that on Facebook, because that's a massive trigger for a lot of
Yeah.
people who have suffered loss.
Yeah,
And-
holidays.
and- yeah, and the holiday may be the best memory in the world, but it catapults them directly into depression
Mhm.
and loneliness. And so even with that good memory, that good trigger, we have to put it in some kind of perspective. And what I like to do with people who have lost, because loss is very challenging for most
Yes, it
people.
is.
Yeah.
Mm.
I like to say, remember that, okay, even if you don't believe in spirituality, right? And you're not spiritual at all, you're an atheist. You don't believe in life after death. That person lives on within you. If they're a family member, their very DNA is a part of who you are. That's why we can do DNA testing and find your ancestors to 15 million years ago. Their DNA is a part of you. And so they live on. They live on. Memories. Their memory is a part of you. And therefore, their spirit lives on. So instead of feeling like you lost them, they're gone, there's no hope. You hold on to the fact that they are a part of you and therefore they're never away from you. They may not physically be in your presence, but they are always present with you in one way or another. Yeah. And that's how you deal with the depression that comes from the positive trigger. You reframe it, right?
Yeah.
You reframe it and you make it meaningful, a positive meaning versus a negative meaning. Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of noticed that Christianity is one of the religions that don't really stress the importance of grieving. You kind of try to hurry up and get over the grief and take down all the pictures so you can try to pull yourself together. But in other religions, you know, they kind of build shrines to the departed ones and things like that. So
Yeah.
it just kind of shows you the difference in the various religions and everything.
Yeah, I've never noticed that. I've never noticed that, but each of us are responsible for our own grieving, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Each of us.
Mhm.
And whatever I need to do to
Yeah.
grieve the way I need to grieve is what I need to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that it's probably not healthy to be grieving for 3-4 years, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Not healthy. There should be a time period, right? Your loved one wouldn't want you to stop life because they left
Right.
you here. But we do need to process these.
Good point.
We do. So, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. As with everything, there's good and bad in each, right? When I pulled this slide right here, at the top of this picture was trauma responses, right? And I intentionally took the word trauma response out because these are not trauma response. These are survival responses, right? These are deeply embedded in our DNA to help preserve life. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop, right? Or fall. These are deeply embedded in our DNA. And you see, in case of danger is the first word. But everything that's dangerous isn't a trauma, right? And I think psychologically, we've gone off the deep end. Everything is trauma. Everything is traumatizing. You're never going to get over anything, yada, yada, yada. But there are times where, you know, say you encounter a tiger. There are people who have encountered a tiger. You need these instincts to work the way they're supposed to, so that they instantly say, ooh, tiger, run. Right? But what happens when you have negative experiences, traumatic experiences, need of healing in the subconscious, is that these things hijack your rational thinking. They hijack it. That's why your intuition doesn't work right. That's why your feelings and your senses don't work right. That's why. Because your trauma responses are taking place. Your survival instincts are kicking in. You're trying to preserve life, even when there's not a threat. Even when there's not a threat. Some people are fighting constantly. They are constantly at war. Some people are constantly running. I used to say that I was a runaway bride. Yeah. Mama's laughing.
You're gonna have to elaborate. Between Mama's laughing, you gotta elaborate. I'm sorry.
Look, so this is me being 100% authentic. At the first side of trauma in a relationship, I'm ready to run. The first side of drama, stress, aggravation, irritation, something we cannot overcome. I'm like, deuces, I'm out. Runaway. When I coined myself the runaway bride was when I had been dating this guy for about 2 years. That's typically the mark, about 2 years. And we had lived together, and marriage, people were starting to kick around marriage. and I suspected that he would probably have asked me to marry him. I literally had a dream of me running away from the church in a wedding gown, full speed. Talk about trauma in the subconscious.
So you did not have you had a nauseous feeling. You didn't have butterflies in your stomach. It was nausea.
I
Okay.
had nausea, knots.
Hey, Jeff, and she's still doing it.
And I still do.
That's why we love her. Okay.
It is something that I'm continually working to overcome. But I will acknowledge that until probably about 3 years ago, I wasn't aware of what I was doing. I didn't realize that I was moving into trauma response. Didn't realize it. I thought it was my intuition. I thought I was feeling something that I couldn't see. Something was off about this situation. But it was a trauma response. It was a trauma response. Yeah. And so I'm overcoming it, right? Overcoming. Still there, but better.
I used to tell people who are seeking a relationship, don't turn Mr. Right now into Mr. Right, but don't turn Mr. Right into Mr. Wrong.
There you
And
go.
that's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And you will never know until you move through the process. This process, you know? Yeah. You guys just don't, the universe brought me all kinds of messages and learning opportunities to come to the awareness of what I was doing. It took a long time. But I would literally experience, you know, like I said, when you go into the flight mode and feel the need to flee, you will start experiencing the jitters and the sweating and the heart beating faster, right? This is where you start running into health issues. Because like I said earlier, if you're always in fight mode, there are some people who are always fighting. They don't know what they're fighting, but they're always ready for a fight. They're always pushing uphill, right? That fight mode with nowhere to go turns back in on itself and causes illness, causes inflammation, causes trauma. And so you have to move through it. Have to. One of the things Iyanla Vanzant used to say was sit in it. Remember I said triggers were a gift? Triggers were a gift because they're going to trigger this response. And then you got to make an assessment consciously. Am I really in danger? Because that's what this response is about. You see, in case of danger, in case of danger, in case of danger. All of these responses are, is my life in danger? When you feel yourself going into this in situations where there is no danger, that means there's a trauma. Ask the question, why am I feeling this right now? What is this really about? Assure yourself, I'm not in any danger. There's no real threat. It's all imaginary. Yeah. People go, this is part of change management in industry, because when an organization restructures, changes, you know, whatever, reorgs, as they say, people go into this response. And people do fight. They fight against the change. People do leave. They take flight. There's a lot of people who leave during a reorg. That's why they do it sometimes, to shake people up and let people leave. Let's reorg. We want to get rid of some folks. They do that intentionally because this is predictable. So, something to be mindful. And then our last slide for the night, I was determined I was going to get through it. Because, and I got to get it to Anjana because she keeps asking, what do we need to do to deal with these emotions and these thoughts and stuff. I kind of put a little thing together, and I just made this up off the top of my head, the terms, but the information is in many places. I actually, to get this class together, I pulled from several books, one of which I'll have to get the name of to y'all shortly. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it had some advice and information about what to do to heal the subconscious, right? And one of the things is to restore the information. Within our subconscious are all kinds of things, but we need to pull the things that we have forgotten to the forefront for examination. Look at them, rephrase them. Is how I perceive the situation at the time, have I received new information to make it less valid? What I perceived it to be, right? Because especially in the situation of trauma, you don't always remember right. You don't always remember right. You need to pull it back up again and ask yourself, was this a 5-year-old thinking about a situation that happened? That's what all the work of healing the inner child is about. You saw it as a child, your child dictated what's in your subconscious. Now let's pull it up and look at it as an adult. The next thing to do is to refresh the things we may have forgotten that need to live again. What happens with a lot of people, especially in the situation of the end of a marriage or the death of an individual or bad things, we forget the good things. I hear the kids a lot of times nowadays, and it's driving me nuts. There's a lot of information about how children were raised. Frozen on my end. Can y'all hear me?
You froze up there for a bit.
Yeah.
My internet doing stupid stuff. All right, I see y'all moving, so I guess we're back. One of the things that I've noticed is that with the millennials, they're going back and they're saying, oh, my parents were horrible, right? And I think there's a lot of faith, and that was wrong. They're saying things like were verbally abusive. And everything is wrong with their childhood, right? But my thing to them is, not only did they live and survive, but there is something good in that. There had to be something good in their childhood experience. And so what I would encourage everybody to do who sees only negative from certain situations and see which things you may have forgotten that need to live again. The other thing is to reorganize and prioritize the importance of the experience in your life. Some people make one experience be the driver for everything they do. It was the worst thing that ever happened, right? Or this was as good as it ever got. There are other good things that can come. It wasn't as bad as you made it out to be. Reorder. And you get to do that any way you want to. You can ascribe a new meaning to this. You can ascribe significance to this. This is the power of your conscious mind. That's on you to do. And it doesn't need to be done for the people involved, right? But it does need to be done to keep you from being held hostage. Reorder. As you look through the stored memories in your subconscious, there are things that you want to keep because they made you who you are today, because they weren't all bad. Hold on to them and hold on to them for dear life. But then there's some things that you might want to delete consciously. Now we subconsciously or unconsciously, we stick things into the subconscious in the closet and hide it. But when you consciously bring it back to your awareness, it doesn't hinder me anymore. Those are the type of information. Yes, this happened. It seemed like the worst thing in the world at the time, but I release it. I let it go. So that I can move on with my life. Send it off to the universe with love and acceptance. Right? Or I lay it on the altar before God to be burned in the fire. Delete it. So this is your exercise for the next week, or whenever you choose to do it. I can't make you do that. Whenever you choose to do it. Take some time. If you believe that there might be, some of us may not have any challenges in our lives, right? That are related to our subconscious beliefs or limitations. But if you feel like you do, I want you to take this exercise and use it over the next couple of days and see what you come up with. And stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing in hopes that it'll keep me from freezing up. Can y'all hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
If you feel like there's
Reason.
things to hello.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Can't hear it. Yeah.
Okay, let me switch. Me and Cox are always at war with each other. And it always wants to do this when I'm teaching classes. I don't know why. So, what did y'all hear? Do you have any questions?
What was our homework again?
Yeah, we don't have that. Maybe you need to type it in.
Well, 1 second.
It's just frozen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's frozen.
Hey, can y'all hear me now?
We can hear you right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yes. Okay, so I switched internet. I moved from Cox to my cell phone. Okay, so the question was, what was the homework? Is that what you said, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me pull it back up again. Okay. So the homework is to take this question, what's stored in your memory bank?
Okay.
And if you find something, or if you find yourself triggered this week, do this exercise. when you're meditating or when you're thinking about these things that's stored in your subconscious, decide what to do with the experiences that come up. Do I want to restore them? Do I want to refresh the memory? Do I want to reorder it? Do I want to keep it or delete it?
Good.
Yeah.
Got it.
Got it. Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to stop sharing in hopes that it will help with this connectivity stuff. I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens. So any questions or comments about that, the last few slides that we went through? Okay.
Well, if we can hold on, if it is good for us, I'd never seen the expression fawn used in fawn that you used. And it was like through that people pleasing behavior that obviously we're getting something out of.
Mhm.
That's why we do it. I mean, we obviously are getting some payoffs for that as well.
Yeah.
But I guess I just never heard it. I guess I'd never heard it put that way, in like, because that's a big thing, I think, in my life, maybe it is in other people's life, but that we want people to like us, you
Yeah.
want people, there is that natural thing, but those people pleasing behaviors, cannot serve you well because it can kind of diminish who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about,
So anyway, I've just seen it like that. Yeah.
yeah. I have met so many people who have said that, they have that pivotal moment where they've done everything for everybody and then they lose their minds and they don't want to do anything for nobody.
Yeah. I get to those sort, like, I'm not going to do another meal. Nothing. I don't care what you eat,
Yeah. It gets to be exhausting.
And
trying to
that
make
they wrote this too.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
or you end up being,
With the can opener,
yeah. So people pleasing can be just as detrimental, but it has a root. It has a root, and that root is embedded in your subconscious.
Yeah.
And you need to
Buzzword.
reorder, delete, or keep.
It's right. Or delete it. It ain't
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was interesting for you to put that in there. I don't know if it was in the work that you pull from or yourself, but that was a good one to put in.
Yeah.
In terms of survival, in behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? We are way over time, but the conversation has been so good. We needed to have some of these conversations to get through. There is a lot more. A lot more that we could talk about around this stuff. Okay, I see what you said, Jeff. Maybe I could type out the homework.
I got it. I got it now. I took a picture of that slide. So,
okay, anybody else need it? Because if so, I can email you the.
you know me, I've got to get an A+ on my homework. Okay. I get the highest GPA. Gotta have it. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Okay, Miriam, I'll send it to you.
I'm gonna go eat. Good night. Good seeing y'all.
You too. Y'all have a great rest of your night.
Good seeing you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.